Welcome everybody to part 2 of What's the Most Creative Way You've Seen a Cantrip Used, generated by our lovely users over at our subreddit r/MrRipper. Let's get into the meat and potatoes, shall we? One time I was playing Out of the Abyss, and I'd just learned Shape Water. We were in a cave beneath an underground lake, and I could hear water dripping from above. So I did the logical thing and blew out the ceiling. Then I used Shape Water to form a stairway of ice up to the surface of the lake above us. The DM just stared at me until he had no choice but to say, yep, alright, it works. On the same lake, we made a mushroom boat and I used Shape Water to propel it. That's quite ingenious. Currently in a Pathfinder 1E game, Party of 3, I'm a wizard, necromancer. We were breaking into the headquarters of a group of bandits, but we were a bit too loud. We ended up alerting a guard dog in the first room. The party quickly hid so he wouldn't be seen, but the dog was actively searching for us, and he would surely find us. So I decided to ask the rogue if I could borrow one of his daggers. He handed it over to me, and then I cast Mage Hand to grab the dagger and drop it on the dog's head, blade pointing down. Before actually casting it though, I made sure to ask the DM if the dog could even see the spell, if his dog mind could even process it. The DM answers, no, he cannot. Ended up one-shotting the dog that didn't understand why there was a floating dagger coming towards him. The rogue, who is a goblin, then ate the corpse. I don't play 5th edition much, but a wizard friend of mine did a Pocket Sand 2.0. It was a while back and we were getting our asses handed to us by some monster. I can't remember what it was, but I remember I was near death and the others weren't faring too well. So this wizard who had this sand on him from a joke I made earlier in the campaign, I even said, "Oh, getting some sand for our next battle." Little did I know this fucking dude kept it and used gust to blind them so we could all disengage. This one is a bit of a stretch, but I'd say it still counts since I didn't use a spell slot at all. So my character is a mischievous Sorlock. Sorcerer, Warlock, multi-class, in the group I'm playing with. The party was exploring a small hideout behind a waterfall when the group who owned it started to show up. Now, the place was dark and not all of the party had dark vision, so my Sorlock had made liberal use of the light cantrip to light the place up. As we were exploring, the bandits show up and spot us inside their hideout. I asked the DM what their races are, and I'm in luck. They're all humans, so I have a great idea and use a bit of telepathy with my party, telling them all not to move. I'm a Verdan, they have limited telepathy. So, as soon as the goons start entering the little hideout behind the waterfall, I cut all my light spells and the place goes completely pitch black. The only light is from the moon, and it only illuminates the hallway back out of the room and to the waterfall. My Sorlock then used Minor Illusion twice. First, I used it to make the sound of our group's barbarian shouting, "Run!" Then, I used Silent Image, which I can use an Eldritch Invocation, Warlock skill, to use the spell without a slot. The image was of my character running down the hall and out of sight, able to be seen by the human since it ran into the moonlight. Along with that, I used Minor Illusion to make the sound of a large amount of feet running. The DM loved the idea, but was a bit more than kind to me. He didn't even have the bandits roll to see if they seen through my illusion. He stated that me cutting the light and putting the group in darkness was enough on its own to give me advantage. He then said that with me using both Silent Image and Minor Illusion in such a way, the group didn't even try to see into the darkness and just immediately followed my illusion outside. We ended up slaughtering the group of 5 in 3 rounds after surprising them outside as they searched for my illusion. I was playing a multi-class sorcerer fighter in Waterdeep Dragon Heist named Char P. Shooter. In one session, I asked my GM, "Can I use Quickened spell True Strike?" And so he says yes. So on my first attack, every turn I'd get advantage. In another campaign, I played a Draconic Bloodline Sorcerer, and I used Twinned Mage Hand along with the rest of my party to Three Stooges some guards. Recently, I was playing a campaign as a tiefling wizard who was adopted by the king of the land. She was covering night watch and she noticed something off in the distance. She sent her familiar owl out as a scout and it passed a stealth check. She then observed through its senses and noticed 2 changelings. I then asked the DM if he would allow me to cast Thaumaturgy on my owl as I talked through it. He allowed it. What happened next was my best role-playing moment ever. In a booming voice, I told them that I saw them and was aware of their presence. They then transformed into a male drow and a female high elf and played the whole "poor workers" act. My character responded, again using Thaumaturgy.
"Your silly tricks will not work on me, for I am a god, the god Lorax, and I am always watching you."
Then they run off towards the area of hiding to get a priest to clear the area of an angry god, and I have my owl trail behind, so we know where to find them. And that was where the session ended. TLDR, my character used her familiar and Thaumaturgy to create a god.
The Lorax. Beware, the Lorax is always watching you.
I was playing a bard who was a massive showman, as if she was pulled straight off of a late-night talk show. Minor Illusion was my most used spell. I would constantly use it for such purposes as sitcom noise, such as laugh tracks, audible gasps, and ohs. These weren't used a lot, but they were used. Various physical gags such as neon signs, sparkly text, etc. Subtitles for party members when they didn't know the language, and I did. That's really clever. My entrance theme, the instrumental of The Other Side from Greatest Showman, which we'd play via a Discord bot. But I'd sometimes do other songs for appropriate fights. A lot of Zelda Breath of the Wild OST was played. Honestly, a lot of fun. I was a sorcerer named Raphael in Eberron, and it was the first time I'd ever played a caster. I chose Prestidigitation as one of his cantrips, not very familiar of what all it could do. Raphael used it to clean things, himself, his apartment. He mostly used its cleaning and dirtying abilities. Near the end of our first session in that campaign, we were fighting a mob boss and some of his henchmen. 3 of them were in a group closer to Raphael, while the rest were closer to my party. I managed to magic missile one of the 3 and got a little closer, ready to attack. Now, I had mostly played fighters, barbarians, and monks, classes with high AC, and typically a decent strength score. Well, I had forgotten that my level 2 sorcerer had a strength of 8. Making his modifier -1. The bad guy's turn came round and one of them grappled Raphael. And of course, the realization hit me that it would take a miracle to resist. One roll later, and my sorcerer was grappled, unable to break free. My turn came around, and I had the idea to use the dirtying aspect of Prestidigitation. The idea was that I directed at my grappler's tongue to make it taste so bad he'd let me free. The DM had me roll to hit, and I was exactly 1 under his AC. Being fair, but also fun, DM ruled that a pile of foul-smelling dog poop lands on the bad guy's shoulder. One of my party members shot and killed the guy holding Raphael, and the last one of the 3 ended up retreating. It was my turn again after he turned and ran, so Raphael picked up some of the dog poop from before and cast magic missile through the poop at the guy running away and killed him. The poop had no purpose other than to add flair and to be funny. After that, the sorcerer thoroughly cleaned the poop off of his hands using, you guessed it, Prestidigitation. I really loved that cantrip. This was an advanced 2nd edition game, so the way cantrips work is a little different. Basically, cantrip is one spell, which does not need to be memorized or have slots devoted to it, which can produce minor magical effects at the caster's whim. The effects produced by the cantrip cannot cause damage or replicate any other spell effect, so it doesn't get as much use as one might hope or expect. It usually gets cast to subtly misdirect or entertain. Colorful puffs of smoke, faint tinkling music, a smell wafting in from another direction, you know, etc. But recently, my party found an interesting way to use that spell. One of the characters, Aramor, is gathering ingredients for a find familiar spell. One of the ingredients listed is a vial of druid sweat. The party met a druid named Sarsta earlier in the campaign as a part of another quest. So they trudged up to his camp and inquired as to whether or not they could take some of Sarsta's sweat. Sarsta said he'd be okay with it, except he hasn't broken a sweat in years. Living out in the wilderness all these years has conditioned him to that environment. Another party member, Daniel, suggested using Cantrip to magically raise his internal body temperature, prompting him to sweat. It was an interesting and inventive use for the spell, and I figured it was in the same vein as some other uses I've seen for it. Aramor and Daniel both had to use the Cantrip in this manner to get it to work, and they had to keep it up for upwards of 10 minutes before the beads of sweat formed. Aramor collected the sweat in a bottle, and they stopped casting the spell, allowing for Sarsta's body temperature to normalize. I know this isn't structured the same way as a lot of other submissions, but it's interesting to me how the concept of a cantrip has changed over the years. To heck with the structure. I love that idea, and I hope everyone else did too. My tabaxi bard, Garfield. He's Garfield the cat, short and round and hiding in the bushes from goblins. The rogue sneaks and kills the goblins, and to keep ourselves from being found out, I minor illusioned a goblin standing in front of us to replace the one we killed. We snuck in successfully, but got discovered after some bad sneak rolls. Our party's rogue broke their lock-picking tools one time, and they were trying to get our warlock to let them use his in order to get past a door. The warlock wouldn't have any part of this, and the two in character were arguing back and forth for way too long. I ended up casting Friends on the warlock and convinced him to let the rogue use the tools. This brought on the reaction, "Why on me?" from the warlock's player. After handing over the tools, the two started, in character, to argue again about the tools. I cast Friends once again and convinced the warlock to calm down and let it go. This resulted in, "Why on me again?" The arguing stopped after that. The first and best time I ever used the Friends cantrip, and people say it's useless. This is Cantrip Adjacent. I was playing a Dragonborn 4 Elementals monk which gets Elemental Attunement, equivalent of Prestidigitation, essentially. Causes harmless sensory effects with elements. When it came time to introduce him, I described how everyone could feel a light breeze coming from his direction, swirling dust around his feet, and a light mist hung about his person. Flames danced about the air as he announced, choosing a deep, gravelly voice, I will do my best,
"I'm Drakgar the Mighty!"
Saying more, but I don't remember. My voice came out sounding like Hulk Hogan unintentionally, and those were his entrance effects. I did not intend to portray him like a pro wrestler, but it sort of became his thing. Since you did that as a pro wrestler, let me try it again in Hulk's voice.
"I'm Drakgar the Mighty, brother!"
Hey everyone, Brian here. I hope you liked today's video and narrations within, as I had a good laugh throughout. If you're new here, please consider dropping us a like, using your bonus action to subscribe, and spreading our little videos out for the world to see, as any of the above helps us more than you know. If you'd like to keep tabs on what MrRipper is up to, or follow him just in case you want to catch one of his streams, feel free to follow him on Twitter and or join his Discord. If you'd like to submit your stories to us, then head over to r/MrRipper, or leave us a comment below, because that's always cool too. Now, if you'd like to know more about being a voice actor, hear some wacky voice challenges, hear other types of stories read out loud, or watch some fun gaming streams, you can always check me out on YouTube or Twitter at BrianVaughnVA, and you can join my Discord too for more of that talk, as well as positivity stuff as well. You can see all the links to both of our social medias in the description below. With business talk out of the way, I just wanted to check in real quick to make sure everyone's doing alright. I've already had a fair few friends who've been struggling lately because of the increasing anxiety about finding work or going to school or just life in general. Right now, in my opinion, we're entering the eye of the storm, which, if you know anything about hurricanes, basically means we're at the midway point. Just hang in there a little longer and I promise all of this is going to be over. It will whittle away, and with the coming rains, it will wash all clean. Don't worry. You're not in this alone either, and if you ever need to talk or rant or vent, please, I encourage you to do so in the comments below or over on my Discord, because we have a health and positivity channel just for that. I always will keep checking on every single one of you as well until everything is clean and clear. And when it's all done, I'll still be here because I love you guys. I want you guys and gals out there to know you're okay, that you're worth something to somebody, and that I want you to be happy. So, for me, say hi to someone in the comments today. Be kind to one another, and please, for me, be kind to yourselves too, because you're worth all the self-love you can handle. Never bottle things up or hide how you're feeling, okay? Talk about whatever you want to talk about, even if you think it's boring. I guarantee you, I will not find a darn thing you say boring, mundane, or stupid. I want to hear all about your day, about your stories for D&D and Pathfinder, for everything. I want to know how you are doing. So for me, be safe, be happy, and remember to tune in, because we will see you next time. Bye for now.